Tennessee Titans host the New England Patriots this weekend, and we will get our first look at Mike McCoy's Titans. So how do we get excited for this team, this 1-5 team? We're going to go through this game, previewing it, and talk about getting excited for Mike McCoy's Titans. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it.
Why can't I just talk to the team after talking to the staff about the direction we're headed? And there's a lot of football left. We got a very good football team coming here this weekend, so we got to prepare for them, number one. That was the big thing. But, how we want to play, I want these guys to play hard. I want them to play tough, and I want them to stick together. And that's the big thing, very similar to what I talked to you guys about the other day of, everyone playing together. We got to play some complementary football here. All three phases coming together on Sunday.
Oh, welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville in partnership with 440 Sports. I'm Justin Graver. Joining me, the last episode I'll be doing before Justin Mello returns. Joining me today, Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports, sitting in as my co-host. Easton, thank you for filling the role today. How's it going?
Graver, thank you for the invite. I'm happy to be here talking about such an exciting football team.
Yes, this team that gets us out of bed every Sunday to wonder what new torturous hell they will put us through this week. Easton,
Horrors await us.
I have this cycle. I've been meaning to make maybe this would be a good little meme to make. They make the cycles of fandom or whatever for all kinds of different teams and situations. The Titan cycle of fandom for me is on Sunday, you're excited and all of your hopes and dreams are crushed. And then on Monday, you hate the team and you're pissed at them. And then you start hearing them talk at the press conferences and the players are they still have a good attitude. They still have good energy. The coaches are saying all the right things. And by Thursday and Friday, I'm excited to see this team finally break out of whatever funk they've been in for 25 straight games, right? And then Sunday hits and then the first quarter hits and the Titans hand it off 3 straight times and then punt and you're ready to throw the remote through the television again. And that's my cycle of being a Titans fan. I don't know if anyone else can relate to that.
What you just described is detailed in the DSM-5 Human Psychological Manual as an abusive relationship.
Oh my God.
That's what that is, what you just outlined. And it's what the Titans are doing. Being a sports fan it's a sick reality, and for some people it's sicker than others. When it's a good team, you're beholden to them, but it's okay because everything is sunshine and rainbows in your life. And when it's this kind of bad team, it is astonishing the resiliency of the fan brain. If you time heals all wounds, and by time I mean about 72 hours, but those first 72 hours are nightmarish.
And that's the thing to me is as a fan, we all want to see our team go win the championship, right? That's the ultimate pinnacle, ultimate peak. And I've been fortunate as a Mavs fan to see one of those. As a Texas Longhorns fan, I got to see one of those. As a Rangers fan, I got to see one of those. But my favorite team out of all my teams is the Titans, right? So I want to see them. And ultimately, to me, it's not even really about seeing them win the championship. Obviously it is. That's what you want. But as a fan, to get you through any given day or any given week, all you need is a little hope. And I think Mike McCoy, nobody's confusing Mike McCoy for Bill Belichick, or I don't know if that's the best comparison anymore, but the name a great head coach.
Sure.
Nobody. Yeah, there you go. Nobody thinks that this Titans team is going to suddenly win 9 games in a row and go to the playoffs or whatever. But I think there's a little bit of hope in the fan base, at least, that we're going to see a change, at least a different product, a product that we can be a little more excited about. And I like Mike McCoy, from what we've heard of him these last 2 days. I like listening to him. He seems to have a good presence to him, a confident presence. He does feel like a guy that can rally the troops around the situation. And the way he talks in the presser, it just feels like he knows what he's up against and he knows how to attack each day. He doesn't feel like this role's just been sprung on him and he's in over his head. At least that's the sense that I get. What are your impressions of Mike McCoy, aside from the fact that he is really good at saying nothing?
He is very good at that. There's a reason why he was the obvious choice. All those things that you just outlined. He was a pretty high floor, low disruption option for the Titans. In terms of their internal candidates, he was the only guy that wasn't going to create coordinator vacuum. And so that's a big part of it, obviously. But even more than that, the fact that he has done this before, he has three or four, I don't know.
It was
a couple of 2013 to 2016 in
4 seasons. Yeah.
So that's 4 seasons. Yeah. Counting in San Diego. And they weren't like the best seasons ever by any means, but he's done the head coach thing. He's done the coordinator thing. He's been with a handful of different teams. He's been the head coach and worked for a number of different head coaches. So like he's seen a lot in his time in the NFL, and he's capable of doing the actual job in terms of the logistics of, can you do this? He can do this. He's also somebody that I do think is a pretty decent option I wouldn't call him the world's greatest motivational speaker or anything, but talking to some of the players in the locker room yesterday for the first time, they indicated that his first address of the team, which came on Wednesday, was kind of like Titans fans, like the players were kind of like, we're back in kind of thing. And that's not to say that they were dying with Callahan or anything, but in the wake of so much uncertainty this week, I think that address that he gave to his players to try to get everybody rowing back in the same direction after the chaos was effective. And we'll see on Sunday whether or not that's reflected in the play, but at least the mentality of these players, I think mentally they're in the right spot, and work goes on.
Yeah. It feels like they still feel and believe and know that they need to go out every Sunday and do their best to win a football game. And it feels like that drive to try to find a way to be a better football team. We're going to talk about, Mike McCoy's Titans here. That's what we're talking about. But we're also going to hit on Cam Ward, expectations for this weekend. And because Justin's been out and we've had all this this has been an insane week. I'm sure for you, especially, it's been an insane week. I bet Monday was really fun, just waiting around all day for some information. But we never hit Cam Ward's week 6 grade. So Easton and I are going to do that together. We're going to answer lingering questions. All right. We're not going to answer them. We're going to ask the lingering question that will be answered on Sunday. Quickly hit the injury report, quickly hit the game plan. For me, it's less about the opponent this week and more about what to expect from this version of the Titans. So we'll quickly talk about the Patriots, since it almost feels like an afterthought that the Titans have to play the Patriots, and it's the Patriots this week. I think there is a little bit of strategic timing in Callahan's dismissal, and sort of like, hey, look over here, look over here.
You think so?
We're playing the Patriots. Mike Vrabel's coming to town. Oh, look over here. You know what I mean?
Owners, man.
Yeah. So let's get into it, starting with Cam Ward, and I'm going to let Mike McCoy have the first word.
Cam has a burning desire to be great. A burning desire to be great. And the key thing I always tell him, just trust the system and go out there and be you, have fun, be Cam.
Just be Cam. Well, Cam, in my opinion, had his worst game of the season on Sunday against the Raiders. And that's part of the reason you saw a coaching change, is because I think Cam himself and the team as a whole have been trending in the wrong direction. It's not just been a straight slope of regression. There's been high moments, the fourth quarter against Arizona being the highlight of all of them. But, 3 turnovers, not going to get it done. So many completions at or near the line of scrimmage, which isn't necessarily his choice, but there is some element, like there were a lot of screens, but there's also an element of not waiting for a backside read to come open and just going straight to the check down. And sometimes you have to do that, but other times you have time in the pocket. And it felt like there were times where he maybe got a little panicky and just said, I got to get the ball out of my hand to a check down, who's not necessarily open. Like, they don't have running space in front of them. There's a lot of short completions that didn't have hardly any yak. Got to be a little smarter and quicker on the decision-making that resulted in the interception. Got to keep 2 hands on the ball in the pocket. So all of that said, I had to come up with my grade without Justin this week, helping me here to sort of come to a consensus. But you can help me, Easton. Do you think a D- is a fair grade? Am I being a little too harsh on Cam Ward? Because it feels a little harsh, but that's kind of what I feel like he deserves this week.
I think a D- is the right grade, because we, on the A to Z Sports post-game show, immediately following the game on Sunday, we give out instant grades for the quarterback, and that's what I gave him. My kind of like personal rubric is the line of demarcation is between B and C, and if you're a B and up, to me, that's your, we're talking about like trailer versus tractor quarterbacks, right? Did you carry the team or did the team carry you? I think a B or better grade is for quarterbacks that were were tractors. They carried the team, and a C plus or less is for guys that were carried by their team. And I'm not giving out an F to anybody unless I think that you were the reason the team lost the game. You know what I mean? So I can't quite give him an F, but it's as close to an F as I can give without single-handedly blaming the quarterback for the level of play. It was really, really bad. It was, the thing that you'll never catch the Titans front office saying, but is simply the reality here. If you boil down the coaching change this week, it's a quarterback-driven decision, is what it is. And the reality of the situation is that the quarterback through 6 weeks looks like he's regressing. And whether or not this change is actually going to impact that, which we can talk about, and I'm not super optimistic, because like his quarterback coach is still there, his offensive coordinator, like it's actually still the same guys, and it's actually still the same playbook.
Yep.
This is in service of doing something. You know what I mean? It's like, well, you got to do something. Okay, well, nobody can quite put their finger on what this something will actually do. They're just hoping that changing something will be better than sticking to what was clearly not working.
Right. And I think it is like, it just need a different voice in his ear calling the shots. And like, we're going to see some changes. It's hard to say exactly what those changes will be. I think, just from an overall running the team standpoint, Mike McCoy is instituting, he talked about how he did a longer individual period in practice than normal, how the way that they do certain things is going to change. But the players, every single player that spoke, I feel like on Wednesday said, well, it's nothing really changes for us. The routine's still the same day to day. And then like it was Jeffrey Simmons, I think it was like, yeah, we did have a longer individual, but for the most part, it's like there's not like grand sweeping changes in the middle of the season. McCoy was asked, maybe it was you who asked this, I don't think it was, but McCoy was asked about the kind of like, how can you don't have a full training camp, how can you implement your changes? And he's like, well, we make changes every season. You make changes on a week-to-week basis. You install stuff in the game plan, you tweak the way you're doing a certain thing of practice, to tweak this and that. Like, that's nothing new. Like, so that we're just doing it as if we're changing things in season. So yeah. I think that's the right answer. But as far as changing things for Cam Ward, this is also the right answer. Mike McCoy talking about, Teron asked, we haven't seen a lot of RPOs. There was a lot of talk about implementing things that Cam did well at Miami. What is your take on that, and will we see more of that this week? Here's what Mike McCoy had to say.
Well, we have a game this week that we're game planning for, and I can't give you too much information on that. I wish I could, because I'm not going to come out and say we're doing this, we're playing that, we're doing this, because obviously they're going to watch this, and so if I make a bunch of comments about certain different schemes, doesn't matter what the scheme is, they're going to take advantage of that. So I'm not going to really comment too much right now on all the philosophical things on what we want to do with Cam.
And as annoying as that is for us, because we don't know what to expect, it's ultimately it's ultimately the right answer. I know it must be frustrating for guys like you, Easton, who are there, and you're like, all right, what's the change going to be? That it's nothing. What do we mean? You're just going to tell us?
Man, we were spoiled.
Yeah,
it's for.
It's one of the things that I liked most about Callahan was the way that he conducted himself in press conferences. He was honest, he was transparent, he gave us information, but he was confident with the way he told us. Like, he sounded intelligent, like he knew the game really well. I just think something.
It is the reason why, despite only winning 4 games in 24 attempts, I think like, and not to like pump up the guy that just got fired, and rightfully so, but I think the most remarkable thing about his short tenure was that he did not ever lose the locker room, because it got so bleak. I mean, it was awful a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I every week I would go into the locker room like looking for, okay, this is the day we're going to start seeing some cracks, man. They're going to start the frustrations are going to, and they never let go of the rope, which is part of the reason why it was kind of surprising they fired the coach in season, because most in-season coaching fires, especially early, it's like, well, it's because it's because Brandon Staley's Chargers just gave up a 70 burger on primetime. They've given up. The Titans didn't ever give up on Callahan. I think that's a credit to the fact that he is so well-spoken. He's the nicest guy ever. He's extremely likable. He does inspire confidence in his guys. And all of those things are why it's extra upsetting that it didn't work out that he was a coach. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
Like, it sure would have been nice if that guy was also a really good coach, but it didn't work.
Right. Yeah. And I wasn't planning on talking about this with you, but while we're here, you brought it up. Let's just do it. It's now been reported. I wouldn't say you reported it, but you sort of indicated you felt strongly that this was likely. Albert Breer basically came out and said it the other day on a podcast. It's been reported by Paul Kaharski that he also feels this way, but again, it's not like a direct report. And then Mike Silver indicated this as well, that this was Amy coming in hot and saying, I don't want this guy coaching this team anymore, essentially. She was like, look, his name isn't Mike. His name's Brian. We need to get a Mike in here, so fire him.
I told you guys in the first place that this was a mistake. Yeah.
Like a coach of the Titans has to be named Mike, in this era of football. And he's not named Mike. No, but I do think, I was hesitant to say that this was all on her because, logically speaking, all the fans who've been watching this team have watched this team and said they need to make a change at head coach. Almost every fan you talked to was like, he needs to be fired. So why couldn't Brinker and Borgonzi have also been watching this team from inside and come to that same conclusion, right? But based on all these breadcrumbs, it does feel like it was an Amy call, which is mildly frustrating. But at the same time, I think it was the right call. Is that crazy to say? Even if she won't go talk about it?
The reason why none of us are reporting it is because we can't report it. And the reason we can't report it is because nobody has talked to Amy. Anybody that claims they've talked to Amy is lying, unless your name is Chad Brinker or Mike Borgonzi. So it's all based on what we're hearing secondhand, third hand, what we know about the way that the team works, vibes, putting the breadcrumbs together, right? But I don't think you have to be the sharpest, most plugged-in fan to understand what we all understand. To be clear, this wasn't like Monday morning. Chad and Mike were like, "Amy, please, no, don't make us do it."
Right. I mean, to be clear, this has been not a long time coming, but his play calling taken away from him 3 weeks into the season. That's almost always the first sign. You look around the league at struggling coaches, they're either going to fire a coordinator or play calling duties are going to change. And then a couple of weeks
taken away from him is absolutely the case.
And then a couple of weeks or a couple of months later, that coach is ultimately fired. You almost never. Nick Sirianni is the last example I can think of a coach who gave up play calling mid-season and things got better and survived. So
and he barely survived.
and he
yeah.
And once it happened to Callahan, it was like, okay, the writing's on the wall. It's either going to be mid-season or end of season. So I don't know. That's why I think it feels like Amy made the choice. But to your point, it's not like Brinker and Borgonzi were like, please don't fire him though. I don't know.
So the reasoning, because you're right. Every fan, everybody in media, everybody in the building understood the writing on the wall and understood there are two questions: if we fire Callahan and when we fire Callahan. And whether you decided after this last game or you decided 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, pretty much everyone had decided. The question of if is yes, this will eventually end. The question is, when is it ideal for this to end? And that's a broader conversation that I don't want to hijack the entire podcast with, but in short, it's all about risk-benefit analysis, right? And so I think that with Chad and Mike, and I feel a certain way about which of them is actually pulling the strings versus which of them may or may not have actually wanted to do this now. People can come to their own conclusions on that. I think that any hesitance to do it now, not to do it in general, but to do it now, is because, okay, let's do a simple Venn diagram or a simple pie chart of upside and downside. Both of those charts don't work for this either way, by the way. That was poor metaphoring on my, or not even metaphoring. That was poor visualizing on my part. But let's make a pros and cons list. There it is. Third time's the charm. Pros and cons of firing Callahan now. The pros, and as we talked about with a lot of people in the locker room and the coaches and stuff yesterday, the pros seem to be that everybody comes down somewhere between, I'm not sure this will help, and a change was needed. So Nobody seems to be, at least vocally, being like, this is going to ruin everything. They all seem to think that, well, either it's going to stay the same, we're still going to suck, or maybe a change was needed. And we heard some players like Skoronski kind of alluded to, and I think he's probably the most valuable voice when it comes to this, because he's, the leader of the offensive line, and that's a group that really struggled last week, and a really important group for Cam Ward. And so when he comes out yesterday and says, based on our results this year, I think it's fair to say that some change or changes were needed. And so he's not explicitly saying Brian needed to get out of here, but he's acknowledging that maybe this change will help. James Williams said the same thing. Chigakonkwo said the same thing. Varying levels of notability from these different voices, obviously. But the point is, there are players in the locker room that seem to think maybe this change will help. Now, whether they actually think that a change was needed, or they're just inclined to be like, it can't hurt, or they're inclined to just be hopeful and say, maybe this, let's rally around this, whatever the reason, they think it. Now, when you dig down with these players and people behind the scenes that I've talked to that all kind of lean towards a change was needed, when you say, okay, a change was needed, the change is going to help, what is the change going to do? When you try to pinpoint that with them, nobody that I've talked to so far, and I'm still working on this, nobody seems to have a straight answer. The answer tends to boil down to magical change because we changed the coach, kind of changing things for the sake of changing things. And sometimes that works. Like sometimes a change does work and you can't on the front end predict why it works. It just works. And that's what they're hoping happens. But if the upside is magical change because what was happening wasn't working, so we just changed it for the sake of changing it. And the downside is the locker room fractures, all the coaches' doors close, everybody starts looking for the next job with 11 games left to play, your stars get disgruntled, your veterans want out, your development of the rookies becomes extremely difficult. Like, when I weigh those two things, that's where I come down. I think maybe where some of the people in the building this week come down on, okay, yeah, this needs to end eventually. He needs to be fired eventually. But the pros and cons of doing it now feels risky, right? Feels risky.
I think that there are some other pros in the sense that I think Cam Ward was starting to develop some bad habits, and we talked about already, was regressing.
Agreed.
And that, again, I don't know how much is really going to change, but it does sound like Mike McCoy's going to have some philosophical changes. The way that he talked, the answer that I referred to earlier, talking about how you make, you install new things every week. So we can make these changes I want to make that's a little paraphrasing. And the most recent answer we played about, we're not going to reveal anything in a press conference because they're going to use this against us, tells me that and maybe he would say that if they weren't going to make any philosophical changes on offense. But I feel like the change that needs to be made is to simplify. And I think that they tried this a couple weeks ago, but just let players, they come out in the 2-minute. How many times have these guys talked about how, Chigakonkwo, I think, said, we only have really 6 plays that we run out of this, and we've repped them hundreds of times. And shocker, they look great in the 2-minute. You take a lot off the plate of everybody. You can go play faster. And I think that's sort of what Mike McCoy wants to get out of these guys, is the ability to play faster, play hard. And he's said it how many times now? In 2 days, he's probably used the phrase play together, stick together or play together 15 times in 2 press conferences. So I think that's what you can expect to change, but I agree. It's not a whole new staff. It's not, you don't have an off season to implement a new culture. These guys are just going to have to come together and say, some of us are playing for the chance to keep playing in this league. Some of us are playing for our next job. Some of us are coaching for our next job. The last 11 games we have is our chance to show what we can offer either this team next year or another team next year. But nobody wants a piece of a 3-win football team. But if you can, win a few more games and show some improvement, you can make yourself a desirable asset, whether, again, to this team next year or somewhere else. So I think that's sort of the driver that's going to keep this team going.
And Justin, I'm a pretty optimistic guy. And maybe at this point, I've just been beaten out of me and I'm too jaded on this team. But I know you saw on Tuesday, the first time McCoy talked, the quote that everybody ran with and got excited about was we're going to lean into players, not plays, right? And that's an exciting idea. And I'm not accusing McCoy of being full of crap on that by any means. But I also have been around the past year and I've heard Callahan essentially say the exact same thing 7 different times.
Mike Vrabel said it.
I know, I've said around other ball coaches. I think every ball coach I've ever listened to has said this, right? Newsflash, coaches want to run the plays that their players are good at and not force their players to run their magical perfect playbook. Even the guys in the league that you think could kind of get away with that, like the Kyle Shanahans, even those guys, part of what makes them so special is that they know how to press the right buttons for their players and that they're not forcing guys into a box. Right. And so it's one thing to say it, and it's an exciting thing. It's an encouraging thing. I will be actually jazzed when I see what it means on Sunday, right? Does this mean we see an uptick? And listen, I'm not even sold, because we've heard a lot about the RPOs, about the play action rate, about different general approaches to offense from people that, know how to look up stats and like have outside ball knowledge. And I'm not accusing people of being like too dumb to understand this, but I tend on those things to come down on maybe it's more complicated than the average fan thinks. And if these guys aren't doing this or are doing this, maybe there's a good reason behind it that we just don't understand. Maybe it is that simple and they're just morons, but I tend to lean against the NFL professionals are morons and more towards the average fan, myself included, is morons when it comes to scheme. I am ever pro try something, do something. And so it means just like, let's run a bunch of RPOs. And if it's a disaster for a week, well, there's your answer. You know what I mean? We got it.
You can't get worse than one of the worst offenses in the league. So that's where I'm at, is like, I felt like that going into every game is like, okay, this is the week the offense is going to come alive, because they have this quarterback that I personally truly believe in. Like, the offensive line just has to play together. Like, the run game was working pretty well. Like, I felt like each week going into every game, I was like, this is the week that we're going to see real offense. And it felt like the exact same plan on offense every week. And I think that Mike McCoy will try new things, and who knows? But we got way off track here.
No, I know we got way off track, but I'll leave it with this.
Yeah,
I think this week you'll get a pretty good glimpse into how much influence McCoy actually has.
Yes,
pointed out with Holt still doing the base game planning and putting together the book for the week, and with Hardegree still calling the plays. I'm inclined to say it's just going to be a lot of the same. But if we see significant changes in the vein of what we've been talking about with Callahan and them the past couple of weeks, I think then you'll be like, okay, well, clearly McCoy's fingerprints are on this. I don't know that they will be.
And McCoy and Hardegree's fingerprints, because we've talked a lot about this since the play caller change happened. What changed in Vegas when Hardegree became the interim OC there and was calling plays, and all the motion rates went up, play action went up, RPO went up, and we haven't seen really any philosophical trends. Like those kinds of stylistic things, like play action, motion, RPO stuff, hasn't really changed since Bo Hardegree took over. So is this what Bo Hardegree believes is best for this team, is to keep running it that way? Now that Callahan is no longer there, are we going to see changes? Or is it Hardegree bringing those changes? Is it McCoy bringing those changes? I think those are the answers that we're going to have
today. What do you do you think it'll be a lot of the same, or it'll be a pretty significantly different offense on?
In between those two, I don't think it's going to be significantly different, but I do think the play action rate is going to be up. I think the RPO and the no huddle rate is going to be up, because I think something McCoy said indicated to me they want to lean more into what they really do best and where the areas that they have had success, and to just do that more until there's obviously the theory that something that you have success with in a small sample size, as you do more of it, the efficiency decreases, and it was sort of a fake thing that you were good at because you can't rely on, you can't just live in that all the time. Mm-hmm. Prove it. Prove that you can't live in it all the time. That's what I want,
It's it's fundamental the design process you learn if you're an engineer, where it's to test the bounds of something, do it until it breaks.
Yes.
Let's do some things until they break. Let's find the breaking point with some of these things.
That's my point. So back to Cam Ward expectations. Cam Ward had an amazing quote in an Athletic article published by Mike Silver on Monday. I believe he gave the quote last Friday, but I'm not 100% sure that's right.
It was Friday. I watched him do it.
Nice. Quote, "Once I play how I want to play, I think the league will be bleep effed. I'm going to play..." Right. Cam Ward's response to getting asked about this quote and what it really means, because I think it was PK who clarified, you mean this is about you. It's not about the scheme that you're put in. It's about how you are playing. And he confirmed that and said this.
Just from, I say the biggest thing, just from how can I put it? The freeness of it, the fluidity of the game from operation standpoint to my liking, to getting out of the huddle. And I think the biggest thing is just, me being better every play. I haven't played my best ball. And I think just once I'm, playing to my standard that I put on myself, it'll be able to take care of a lot of stuff on offense.
So is my expectation that Cam Ward has his best game of the season on Sunday? I'd be lying if I said no. That's my expectation. Is that too high? Am I crazy?
So what do we consider his best game? Denver?
I consider Arizona his best game because he led 3 straight scoring drives. And one of those scoring drives was a total fluke, and that's fine because the interception was also a fluke to begin with. Right. Tip ball. So, I think that's his best game. His, last week was as bad as we gave him. It was his highest completion percentage, and I know a lot of that is because of all the short stuff that he threw. But it was nice to see the completion percentage come in above 60% for a game.
You remove literally one drive from that game in the fourth quarter that it changes a lot, but fair enough.
That's fair, and the yardage definitely, the garbage time yards and completions definitely helped. Statistically, I feel like it was one of his better games outside of the 3 turnovers, but actual play on the field, it was his worst game. So, I think that the offense, here I go again, Easton. This is the week. The offense breaks out. I don't think they break out for a 30 burger or anything, which wouldn't that be nice to see here in Nashville? But I think that they are going to move the ball a little bit better than they have. I feel like the protection stuff's going to be simplified to a point where they won't have these miscommunications where after a sack, Kevin Zeitler's turning to Lloyd Cushenberry what's good? We can't hear what they're saying, but dude, what the heck? You're supposed to come there are miscommunications all across the line. That's not getting beat because you don't have talent. That is coaching. That's where the coaching changes can help. And identifying that there are obvious areas where the team is not some guy's not getting the message in this, whatever happened here. Somebody didn't get the memo. So figuring out ways that these guys can all be on the same page. That's most important. And then you can worry about scheme and whatever the hell else from there. Get these guys playing on the same page. And that's why you keep hearing McCoy preach, play together, stick together. So, yeah, I'm kind of expecting that we see Cam Ward show the promise and the flashes, even if it's not fully consistent, that made him the number 1 pick. And I think those flashes have been there in spots throughout the season. He's made a few incredible throws and a few really good plays, but there have been too many mistakes. So I think my expectation and realistically or legitimate, my hope, it's more of a hope than an expectation, is that we see that. We see Cam Ward complete 63% of his passes for 220 yards, a touchdown or 2, and no turnovers. Can he do that? Can he have a game like that? Is it so much to ask the quarterback of the team that I root for just looks like a normal, average level quarterback and not the worst passer in the league? Is that can we get that, please?
You got there at the end to a point where I could agree with you. I also strongly hope that that's what we see. I am less optimistic. I do think that there will be a dead cat bounce element to this game, which, again, sometimes it's because the guy that just got canned had lost the locker room. They hated that guy, and it's reflected in the way that they play. I also think that you see it either way to an extent, maybe less so, just because, as Amani Hooker said in the locker room yesterday, they just fired the coach, and if we keep playing like this, they'll start getting rid of players too. It is even if you love the guy, it's a wake-up call to everybody. It's well, if they cut the head off the snake, then the rest of us could be chopped into pieces soon too. So I do expect them to look better because of that little jolt of energy. Will it last more than a week? Okay, we'll see, but at least a week. I also think that just the nature of Cam, he is somebody that is super resilient and can give that kind of quote despite really struggling and playing some really bad ball. And just what I know from that, having scouted him in college, he is somebody that bounces back. So I don't think that he's just going to lie down for the next 11 games. And I am reservedly optimistic that they do some things different, to at least try some different things with McCoy's fingerprints on the offense. And so I have a hard time believing whatever things they do differently can be that much worse than what they've been doing. So we'll see. I also think that, and we'll talk about the game plan more in a second, I think that this Patriots defense, which is no slouch by any means, but I think that they set up to allow for Cam to look good in a way that we've not seen him to look. How's that for a tease?
There you go. All right, so let's get through the rest of this. We are longer into the show than I planned on being at this point. This is kind of what I was expecting our total runtime to be. So let's move quicker through the next bit.
Do you know who you invited on the
and me too. This is me and Justin every week. Let's see. Let's do 35 minutes on this, 50 minutes later. Oopsies. All right. Let's get to our lingering question that will be answered this week, and it's a pretty basic, simple one. What will Mike McCoy's Titans look like? What is Mike McCoy's Titans' identity? Will they have one? And I think I'm going to start this off with a clip that I thought was probably my favorite answer that Mike McCoy has given in 2 days of speaking, and we're recording this Thursday morning, so there will be a third. Is he speaking today? Probably. He's not. It's coordinator today, right? Yeah. Okay. So in 2 days of speaking, that will remain true by the time this episode is out. He was asked, what's your style of coaching? Like, would you classify yourself as aggressive or conservative? And here is how he answered that.
Do whatever it takes to win, really, when you ask that, because every team is different when you coach it from year in and year out, so it changes. What are the strengths of your football team? Who are you playing? What's the score of the game? What's the weather like? Is it a field position game? Where sometimes you might think, oh, everyone wants you to go for it, but it's a field position game, so you punt it and you play the field position game. Or there's a certain game where you have to score touchdowns to beat this team. You can't just kick field goals, and score X number of points, because more often you look at just the track record of certain offenses, they're going to score X number of points. So that's going to change from week to week. And when things work and you win games, it's not questioned. If you lose a game and you didn't do something, someone's always going to question that. So, we're going to go into every plan. We're going to have a plan week in and week out, and it's going to change from week to week. It's the same thing defensively, offensively, of what we're going to do to how we're going to attack the team, or in the kicking game. So it's kind of hard to answer to say it's only going to be this or it's only going to be that. It's, how is your offense playing? How is your defense playing? How is your kicking game going? Where do you need to get to attempt a field goal? So there's so many things that's going to go into that week in and week out. I know I kind of ran around your answer, but that's kind of the truth.
So a long answer there from McCoy, but a good one, because it's important to acknowledge the nuance here. You can't just always be aggressive. You can't always be conservative. My favorite part was, is this a team you got to score touchdowns to beat, because you're not going to beat them with field goals? Like, having that mindset going into a game, like, this is a game where we just need to keep the ball out of the hands of the other team and we'll be fine, versus this is a team we got to go put points. This is a game we got to go put points on the board, whatever it may be. I do think that there's like a little hesitancy on my end to fully buy in, because it does sound like he was later asked about analytics and gave a similar answer, and then also said, like, sometimes it's about gut feel. And it's like, oh boy, sometimes about gut feel is going to override the analytics because what your gut tells you. But it was clarified with, like, how's the team playing? How's the offense playing? How's the defense playing? Like, if we go for this and don't get it, can the defense hold them? If we go for this, has the offense been in a rhythm, on a roll, to where I feel confident they can go get this yard or two or whatever it may be? So I like it overall. There's a tiny bit of reservation I have about the just throw analytics out the window. But he did say multiple times, analytics is a tool we use, but you can't just rely on it and nothing else. So I like the overall approach from Mike McCoy. I think Mike McCoy's Titans are going to play together. He's talked about how all three phases complementary football need to play together. Again, he's only spoken to the media twice. And he's used that phrase 3 or 4 times. And you heard players repeating it in the locker room, which tells you that he's drilling it into their heads as well. And that's like on their mind as a talking point for you guys in the locker room. Talking to you, Easton, for you guys. So that's kind of what, I mean, every coach wants their team to play complementary football and preaches it. Does it actually happen is the question. But that's what I think, like, the identity of Mike McCoy's Titans is going to be, for now at least, is a resilient group that's been through the absolute worst together and wants to come out on the other side. And whether or not they can is obviously TBD, but that's sort of the identity I think they'll have.
I agree with a lot of that. I don't know. My question, or my answer, is more lame to this question. It's just, I'm not sure it's going to look a whole lot different until the players start playing better.
Yeah.
I am curious to see what changes he makes and how they manifest on Sunday, but it's really as simple as that for me. Is what these players do is going to define Mike McCoy's Titans. And I think his job right now, and maybe for the rest of the season, is primarily keeping them together more than it is tinkering with the X's and O's of it all.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. So it'll be interesting to see I can't wait to like break down the film on next Monday and see what schematically looks different, if anything. All right, let's quickly do the injury report here. Calvin Ridley and Arden Key, I would say. This is a long injury report, a lot of guys with rest days. Only 3 official rest days, according to McCoy, who opened the press conference with that little nugget, and then gave us a little hint about what his tenure as the coach is going to be like. Was like, the rest of the injuries, I'm not going to sit here and give you a timetable or really any information. You guys will see on Sundays who's playing and who's not playing. So that's going to be a little different vibe than what Callahan, more similar to the Malarkey Vrabel and most head coaches, actually. Like, Callahan was a little unique in that transparency aspect. So those 2 guys, we don't know if they're going to be back this week or if they'll be healthy this week. We'll watch the injury report. I'm definitely concerned about this team missing Calvin Ridley. Arden Key, like, because the edge group is so thin and now Femi Oladejo's on IR with a fractured leg and going to miss at least, I would guess, more than 4 weeks with a fractured leg. Arden Key definitely hurts the edge group too. So there's a lot of concerns with the depth here. But there is also some good news. Tavondre Sweat, nobody's said anything yet. His window to return to practice is open. He hasn't actually been activated yet back to the active roster, but I am fully expecting that to happen on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They play a lot? Maybe not. He's going to be out of shape. That not a knock on him. It's impossible for a guy like that to. Same deal with J.C. Latham. Like, you can't. The only way out is through. When you miss a month and you're a lineman, you have to play yourself back into that shape. And so, I don't know. I say that, and at the same time, he missed a lot of training camp, the majority of training camp. And then in week 1, Paul Karski and I were talking in Denver, like, what's the over/under on snaps he plays today, cynically, and we were far below what he actually did. So maybe out of desperation, he plays more. I don't know. He was funny yesterday talking to him for the first time.
He was talking about his mom being the one to like keep his head on straight as he gets frustrated with how much time he has to sit out. I almost pulled that quote, but
Jeff's playing pretty good. You excited to get back in there? He's like, oh, a lot of one-on-ones waiting for me when I get back.
Yeah, that was a great quote. Yeah, good question, Easton. You got a great quote out of him there.
I get a couple of good questions a year. That was one of them.
Yeah, you give yourself more credit. Harold Landry did not practice for the Patriots, still with an ankle injury. So that
Classic.
Is the revenge game going to happen? We shall see. Okay, quickly, game plan. Again, I haven't put a ton of thought into the game plan because, Mike McCoy's the head coach of the Titans now, guys. Like, come on. On defense, stop the run. This is a Mike Vrabel coach team, after all. Most of these players, not most, actually. A handful of these players played for Mike Vrabel and understand what a Mike Vrabel coach team is going to look like against him. And I think there's more guys on defense that played for Vrabel than on offense. So is that
them, right? It's Harold, it's Gibby. I know there are others who also on this team that Vrabel knows.
That were former Titans, yeah.
Like starters or guys you'll see on the field. That might be it.
No, I meant Titans who played for Vrabel, who are still in Nashville, who understand what to expect from a Mike Vrabel team. There's a few guys on offense, obviously, like some of the younger guys, but I feel like
the defense, it's like
yeah.
It's Jeff, and it's Amani, it's Roger.
Was it Jeff who said, we know what to expect, duo 20 times a game, double teams coming at you all day or whatever. That was a great quote from Jeff. So they know what to expect, and they know that it starts with establishing the run and creating those play action opportunities for Drake May, which leads me to my next point. Do not let these receivers get behind you. We've seen it continuing to, it feels like, increase throughout the year. Drake May just hitting these bombs to these guys. And, last week against the Saints was a BS game for if you're a Patriots fan or just an objective NFL fan, because they had a lot of stuff wiped off the board by really ticky-tack and should not have been penalties. And so don't let Demario Douglas and Stephon Diggs and all these guys get behind you on defense. If you can force them into...
Patriots fans, the Titans don't get those calls, so you don't have to...
Exactly. So stop the run, don't let them get behind you, and then, as I would say in any game, force them into 3rd and long and create turnovers. That's the defensive game plan for me.
I agree. It's all about Drake May for me. And around this time last year, when Drake May came into town, he was the entire offense in that game too. Dealt with 10 carries for 95 yards or something like that. He killed them on the ground. He can do it again. He looks so good. Drake May Hive is so up right now. I think that it is going to be a really tough task for the defense, but to me, it is about Drake May. If you can contain Drake May, I'm actually not a whole lot worried about the running game right now, with the fact that the guy that Vrabel wants to play can't stop fumbling the ball, and the guy that he doesn't play is the guy that everyone wants him to play, but Vrabel doesn't trust him in pass protection even a little bit, and every time he gives him a chance, he screws it up. TreVeyon Henderson does. So I don't know. Maybe it would be classic Titans, right, if this was the TreVeyon Henderson breakout game, but I'm not expecting it.
Should I put TreVeyon Henderson in a daily fantasy lineup?
It's not.
Interesting thought. What was the thing you teased game plan that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, so the Patriots defense, now talking about the Titans offense, they have it's a good defensive unit. They got some really good players. Christian Watson's name's stuck in my head. We had a conversation with this earlier. Yeah. He is somebody that is going to erase whoever the Titans' top receiver is, obviously, and that's why I'm talking about Gonzalez, obviously.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know what that's going to look like if Calvin doesn't play. You know what I mean? Because with Calvin not out there, we saw last week, it's bleak. Yeah, I mean so I don't know.
Man.
The point that I was teasing earlier was that while this defense is pretty good, they also have, at least through 6 weeks, allowed more yards after catch than most defenses in the league. It's classic Vrabel, keep him in front of you, bend don't break defense. And so I think if Cam Ward is willing and able to hit a lot of the underneath stuff, find a rhythm in that way, part of what we wanted him to lean into the past couple of weeks, and he's done with some mixed results, I think that it could be a big game for the tight ends and the running backs and the guys underneath, because the Patriots are allowing for that. And so again, the bar is low for this team. We're not even talking about scoring touchdowns. We're talking about moving the ball. I think move the ball against this defense if Cam is willing to take what the Patriots defense is going to give him.
Yeah, I think my big note for the offense is play fast. And we sort of got into this earlier on accident, but lean into what's been working for you, and that is the no huddle hurry up. And you can say, oh, it's garbage time. The defense is playing soft because they have a huge lead and they just don't want to give up a deep touchdown because that's the only way the Titans can get back in this game. But it also is just a product of playing no huddle, is that the defense is going to be a little softer because the offense is on the ball. The defense doesn't have time to get together and huddle and call their exotic coverage schemes and their disguised blitz looks and all that stuff. They have to keep it a little more basic when you are moving at a quick tempo. So I want the offense to play fast. I don't want them to be worried about, if we go no huddle here. Well, Paul Kaharski had a question yesterday that made Cam Ward do this. Huh?
Me too, by the way.
It's an interesting thought
that he phrased in the worst possible way. Yeah.
I follow his logic. I don't think Cam is the person to ask this question. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, he said, do you think that there is a conflict between the Titans wanting to run fewer plays for a rookie quarterback just so he doesn't have to run as many plays and wanting
for a guy mentally?
And to run and to play quickly and have more plays in the offense so that you have more chance to score points or whatever. But is there a conflict there? And I think it's an interesting theory, but I think the Titans need to not worry about that. They need to not worry about if we play too quick and we only have the ball for a minute and a half and the defense is right back on the field. Don't play with those scared, motivating factors. Disregard what could go wrong and look at what was going right when you play no huddle and lean into it. So that's why I want them to just play fast. That doesn't mean the whole game needs to be no huddle, but don't wait until 6 minutes are left in the game to really break it out for a full series. In the middle of the second quarter when you're looking for a spark because you just had a couple 3-and-outs, bring the no huddle out. That's what I'm hoping to see from the offense. And then, get the ball out into the hands of the playmakers. You mentioned the tight ends. Guys like Shimdike, Elikai Manor has shown a little bit of wiggle after the catch as well, and a little bit of juice and able to get downfield. Van Jefferson had a 65-yard catch and run touchdown in the preseason, and if he's going to be playing more because Ridley's out, then let's get all these guys the ball in space, take what the defense gives you, and if you can run the ball well, it sets up everything else. I think being good on first and second down has never been more important. Mike Vrabel had an interesting quote. Zach Lyons pointed this out on Twitter, or else I wouldn't have seen it, that he talked about Cam Ward and mentioned that he's, been unlucky with some of his deflected passes and passes getting tipped. And Zach Lyons was like, Mike Vrabel is spinning this to, guys, if we get our hands up on the defensive line, we're going to get ball production. We're going to create opportunities. So that's a thing that I'll be watching for is, can he avoid the tipped passes this week?
You're definitely right about that. The hurry up stuff. Obviously, the cascading downside effect is if you are a bad team that is liable to go 3 and out or 6 and out or whatever it is, you risk, in an effort to get a spark and go hurry up, you risk sending the defense back out on the field like 45 seconds later and really screwing over that side of the ball and ruining any complementary football that's being played. So to me, doing it early is key because you can get away with sending the defense back out there when they're fresh in the first quarter. If it's the
Right.
first quarter and you're afraid that the opposing team's going to bust the game wide open because your offense tries to go hurry up and just really, really puts the defense in a bad spot, do it on the front end, not the back end when the defense is already gassed.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a fair point. So that's our game plan notes. It's not as detailed as we've been in some weeks. I mean, Easton, you brought the fire though. That was good. Like, I'm talking for myself. I didn't.
It is hard to game plan when we have
When you don't know.
this team is.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up with our final game score predictions. Just to remind everyone what happened last week, Mello predicted a Titans win because he is a fool, and you can tell him I said that. I said it to his face at the time because what I said was, and I can't believe I actually was smart enough to think this, but I said this team has not earned my trust to think that that last week being the Cardinals game was actually a turning point. Like, it was a fluke game where the other team imploded, and good job he took advantage of it by scoring when he needed to, but without the other team imploding, like, that was the same team we've seen lose almost every week that Brian Callahan was the head coach. They still haven't earned any trust from me. I think the question here, Easton, is do you and I truly believe in the interim head coach bump? And is that bump enough to beat Mike Vrabel's 4-2, first in the AFC East right now, Patriots team? Is there enough juice in the Titans building to, like, beat Vrabel because it's Vrabel? I think McCoy was actually asked about this. Like, he doesn't want these guys to view this as any other must-win game. Every game's a must-win game. This is a must-win game. Go win. Is sort of the mindset in the locker room. But how much do we really believe? I don't know if I'm ready to give a prediction. What's your prediction?
I'll say Patriots win 27-23, Titans cover in garbage time.
Ooh, a spread cover would be a win in itself for this team that is like...
I already mentioned, I think, the most impressive thing about Brian Callahan's tenure. Let's talk about the least impressive thing about Brian Callahan's tenure, and that is that he is by far not close, easily the least profitable head coach in modern betting history. Astonishingly bad against the spread during his time, so not only losing games, but getting throttled beyond what Vegas thought you would. So maybe that part changes if the Titans don't actually start winning games. Maybe they can at least have some honorable covers here and there.
Yeah, I don't know if a backdoor cover like you just described is necessarily honorable, but it's a cover.
And it's kind of like in golf. It's like when you skull one and it runs up the fairway 40 yards because there's no grass growing, and it's like, well, we still got down for par. Was it pretty? No, but there are no pictures on the scorecard. And when it comes to betting, there are no pictures on the scorecard. Don't worry about how they got there. A cover's a cover.
Yeah, so cover the game. Well, we'll start with just covering it, and we'll work on honorably covering it if they can achieve that first part. I'm actually going to do the craziest thing I've ever done. I'm going to predict that the Titans get that bump. I'm going to predict that Amy Adams-Strunk walks into the locker room before the game and says, do you guys know who's coaching on the other sideline? Do not let him come into my house and beat us. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I think that, like, we get the mirage, like almost like week one is a liar. The first game you play with an interim head coach is also always a liar. I think we're going to get like a game that makes us feel like, holy crap, is Mike McCoy going to like win this job? That's the kind of game that I think you'll see this week from the Titans. Just a fully, truly inspired performance. Titans win 24-20. That's my prediction.
All right.
So we'll see.
This way today or yesterday, he said, "This game. What is more powerful in the human spirit, desperation or vengeance?" Question you have to ask yourself.
That is a great question. All right.
You think the desperation wins out? So fair.
In this instance, I also think Mike Vrabel maybe doesn't feel that vengeful, or maybe he does. I mean, I don't know. I think some of the quotes he gave, like, Where's all your Titans gear? Do you still have any Titans gear? It's like, oh yeah, the Goodwill down the street definitely has a good collection of my old Titans gear. Like, I don't think he has any feeling at all. It's like, he's probably grateful that he got an opportunity to prove he can be a head coach. And somebody was theorizing in our YouTube comments the other day that regardless of if the Titans had fired him, when Mayo was fired, Vrabel would have found a way out because he wanted to go be in New England and coach the Patriots. And I don't know if I buy that, but it's not the most far-fetched thing I've ever heard. So
We'd have been talking about it at the very least.
yeah, exactly.
I think on the list of points in each team's favor in this game where you're trying to figure out how to win, on the Patriots side, it's all of the football things. And on the Titans side, it's two things. It is head coach bump, ? And it is Mike Vrabel is known for playing up against teams he shouldn't beat and down against teams he shouldn't lose to. So maybe this is one of those games where Vrabel plays down to a bad team. Those are the two things that you can hang your Titans copium hat on this week.
Yeah, and just hope that the Patriots locker room hasn't like gotten together and said, we need to win this game for Vrabes, because that could also be a motivating factor. All right, that will do it. A very long, supersized episode, but I'm glad we got to talk about all the things we wanted to. Easton didn't even get into, the Amy decision and just everything. We hit it all, and there's so much going on. I'm very grateful to you for giving us this time. Make sure you guys are following Easton on Twitter at Easton Freeze. Make sure you're getting all the content there, and we appreciate you stopping by. I'll have to get you back on when Justin is here, but thanks for your time as always, Easton.
Anytime. I love being on the Music City Audible. I will be here anytime you'd have me. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate that. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. And make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop comments below, hit up Sinkers Beverages. Shout out Sinkers Beverages for sponsoring the channel. Go there so you're ready for Sunday. Like, stop by Sinkers sometime this weekend so you are ready for Sunday, because you'll either need a drink to cope or a drink to celebrate. But always drink.
So that you're prepared no matter what happens.
There you go. Always drink responsibly, though. All right, that'll do it. Until Sunday's live recap. Y'all stay safe out there. And tighten up. Sorry, tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.